Hey guys, welcome to Verses and Thoughts. Solars here with the first story of Masnavi Ma'navi after the Reed's lament that we had together. So from now on, Rumi is gonna write the stories that had read them, that like the gathering of the other stories that he had, and he might have edited some of them. So till the end of Masnavi Ma'navi, till the last book, we will be having stories that they may look simple, but you need to look at them deeply and try to find the deep meaning that they may have. Let's get started then. The first story is The King and the Slave Girl, a tale of love and devotion. The timeless tale is about a king who falls deeply in love with a slave girl whose beauty and grace capture his heart. The king's affection leads him to a journey of intense emotion and sacrifice as he seeks to gain the girl's love and heal her when she falls ill. Symbolism in the story, each character represents a deeper meaning. The king is symbol of the soul. The slave girl is symbol of the lower self. Let me read the explanation. The slave girl symbolizes its lower self, the part of the human being that encourages indulgence in worldly pleasures and immoral desires. Her illness represents the harmful effect of succumbing to these desires. The goldsmith, if you see, is symbol of worldly pleasures. The intellect is symbol of divine signs. The intellect represents the divine signs and manifestation of God's beauty and wisdom. The healer or doctor is symbol of divine physician. The elder, if you see, is symbol of the divine messenger. So, the first verse is coming. بشنوید ای دوستان، این داستان خود حقیقت نقد حال ماست آن. Listen, O friends, to this story, for the truth is the immediate state of our being. Rumi asks us to listen carefully, as the truth he speaks is not far away. It's in our present state. Truth is not just an idea, but something we experience right now. بود شاهی در زمانی پیش از این، ملک دنیا بودش و هم ملک دین. There was a king in a time long before who ruled the world and also the realm of faith. Rumi speaks of a king who ruled both the material world and spiritual matters, symbolizing a leader who balances worldly power with spiritual wisdom. اتفاقا شاه روزی شد سوار با خواص خویش از بهر شکار. One day the king happened to ride out with his special companions for the hunt. The king, as I said before, symbolizing the soul, rides out by chance with the Elite servants his inner faculties, symbolizing that the soul, along with its powers, sets out in search of God's truth. The hunt represents the soul's pursuit of spiritual truth and divine wisdom. یک کنیزک دید شه بر شاه را، شد غلام آن کنیزک پادشاه. The king saw a beautiful slave girl on the road and immediately became her servant, the king. So here the king is becoming her servant instead of like vice versa. While the soul is on its path seeking the truth of God, it encounters a beautiful slave girl symbolizing worldly desires and is immediately captivated by her. This reflects how the soul, though originating from a higher realm, becomes entangled in the love of the ego and worldly temptations, deviating from its true pursuit of divine truth. مرغجانش در قفس چون می تپید، داد مال و آن کنیزک را خرید. The bird of his soul was trembling in the cage. He gave his wealth and bought the slave girl. The soul, trapped by worldly desires, is willing to sacrifice everything to possess these desires, reflecting the struggle between seeking divine truth and succumbing to earthly temptations. چون خرید او را و برخوردار شد، آن کنیزک از قضا بیمار شد. Once he bought her and enjoyed her, the slave girl by fate became ill. After the soul or the king acquires the slave girl, symbolizing worldly desires, she becomes ill. This reflects how the soul, once it becomes entangled in earthly desires, faces the consequences of these attachments, such as spiritual sickness or distraction from its true pursuit of divine truth. So, as a message, I can say that let's not become entangled in earthly desires. آن یکی خر داشت و پالانش نبود، یافت پالان گرگ خر را در رو بود. یافت پالان گرگ خر را در رو بود. Or maybe گرگ خر را در رو بود. Yeah, گرگ خر را در رو بود. One had a donkey. I think somehow Rumi is giving an example. One had a donkey, but it had no saddle. The wolf found the saddle and tore it apart. When the soul lacks spiritual discipline, it becomes vulnerable. The wolf tearing the saddle represents the soul weakness and distraction from its spiritual path, highlighting how, without proper preparation, the soul is easily led astray by worldly desires. کوزه بودش آب می نامد به دست، آب را چون یافت خود کوزه شکست. Another example. There was a pot that called the water into its hands, but when it found the water, it broke the pot. The soul, in its search for the truth, encounters the vessel. Once the soul realizes the divine truth, it breaks free from the limitations of the pot, symbolizing the soul's liberation from earthly constraints to directly experience divine truth. شه طبیبان جمع کرد از چپ و راست، گفت جان هر دو در دست شماست. The king gathered physicians from the left and right and said, both lives are in your hands. And here with the other life, he means the life of the king, because the king here is somehow considering himself as the person who is ill. Yeah. Not just the the girl. The king, symbolizing the soul, gathers the physicians from all sides and tells them that the life of the soul is in their hands. This symbolizes that soul's well-being depends on the wisdom, knowledge, and guidance it receives from higher sources, whether spiritual or intellectual. جان من سهل است، جان جانم اوست، دردمند و خستم، درمانم اوست. به به. My soul has no value. The sense of my soul is she. I am very and in pain. I'm very and in pain. My cure is she. The king humbles himself, declaring that his own life holds no worth compared to the slave girl, whom he sees as the sense of his being. In his longing and despair, he views her as his only source of comfort and healing, symbolizing how the soul becomes deeply attached to worldly desires, mistaking them for its ultimate remedy. هر که درمان کرد مرجان مرا، برد گنج و در و مرجان مرا. Whoever heals my soul takes my treasures, my pearls, and my gems. The king acknowledges that whoever can truly heal it will gain access to its inner treasures. This treasure symbolizes the soul's hidden spiritual wealth, including divine insight, wisdom, and purity. This reflects the idea that healing the soul unlocks its deeper, more valuable qualities. جمله گفتندش که جانبازی کنیم، فهم گرداریم و انبازی کنیم. All of the physicians said to him, we shall sacrifice ourselves. Actually, I think they said to each other, not to the king. Yeah. Let us together our understanding and collaborate. The group pledges to sacrifice themselves. It means their egos, and unite their understanding to work together, symbolizing the collective effort required for spiritual growth. هر یکی از ما مسیح عالمی است، هر علم را در کف ما مرهمی است. So they are becoming arrogant right now. Each of us is a Christ for the world. In our hands lies a cure for every pain. Rumi highlights the divine potential within every individual, likening each person to a Christ who can bring healing and hope to the world. He emphasizes that we all possess the ability to alleviate the suffering of others, suggesting that compassion and divine connection are within everyone's reach. گر خدا خواهد نگفتند از بتر، پس خدا بنمودشان عجز بشر. They did not say if God wills out of arrogance, so God showed them the frailty of humankind. For the people who know Arabic or like Asian countries, maybe instead of if God wills, we use inshallah. Inshallah or inshallah. It means if God wills, and it must happen. I mean, yeah, without God's will, it doesn't happen. At the end, He should want, and we need to move forward, take the action, but at the end He is the decider whether it is good for you or no. If you don't agree, don't write in the comments because it's gonna be negative. Rumi warns against arrogance and forgetting to acknowledge divine will. By imitating if God wills, humans demonstrate pride in their own abilities to correct this. God reveals human limitations, reminding us of our dependence on divine power and grace. ترک استثناء مرادم قسوتی است، نه همین گفتن که عارض حالتی است. Abandoning if God wills stems from hardness of heart, not merely neglecting to say it as a passing state. Rumi explains that neglecting to say if God wills reflects a deeper issue, a hardened heart, and a lack of spiritual awareness. It's not just about forgetting the phrase, it points to an inner state of arrogance or disconnection from God. ای بسا ناورده استثناء بگفت، جان او با جان استثناست جفت. Many do not utter if God wills, yet their soul is united with the sense of if God wills. Rumi suggests that through humility and surrender to divine will are not merely in spoken words, but in the essence of the soul. Some may not verbally express if God wills, yet their heart and soul are deeply aligned with submission to God's will, showing their connection to divine truths through inner sincerity rather than outward expressions. هرچه کردند از علاج و از دوام، گشت رنج افزون و حاجت ناروا. What Whatever remedies and medicines they tried, the suffering increased and the need remained unfulfilled. So, as I said, despite all efforts with worldly treatments, the pain grew worse, highlighting that material solutions alone cannot address deeper spiritual ailments. True healing requires turning to divine wisdom and insight, as relying solely on earthly remedies often leads to greater suffering and unfulfilled needs. آن کنیزک از مرض چون موی شد، چشم شه or چشم شه از اشک خون چون جوی شد. The slave girl from illness grew as thin as a strand of hair. The king's eyes flowed with blood like a stream. As the slave girl deteriorates deteriorates. It is a hard word. I think it's not easy to read. It's difficult to read. Yeah, I'm gonna read it again. As the slave girl deteriorates from illness, the king is consumed with grief, shedding tears of blood. This reflects the soul's intense suffering when its worldly attachments fail, revealing the pain of misplaced priorities and the necessity for spiritual awakening. از غذا سرکنگبین صفرا فزود، روغن بادام خشکی می نمود. So how everything got messed up. By fate, vinegar syrup increased the bile. However, it should have been vice versa. And almond oil seemed to cause dryness. Yeah, everything was not working properly. So, when remedies fail and worsen the condition, it underscores the limits of human effort and the necessity of divine will. Even healing agents like vinegar syrup or almond oil can harm if God wills otherwise, reminding us that true healing comes only through divine intervention. از حلیله قبض شد اطلاق رفت، آب آتش را مدد شد همچون نفت. The henna fruit caused a constriction and freedom left. Water, instead of calming the fire, became like oil. When remedies fail and worsen the condition, it underscores the limits of human effort and the necessity of divine will. Even healing agents like vinegar syrup or almond oil can harm if God wills otherwise, reminding us that true healing comes only through divine intervention. That's it. Hope you enjoyed the story and see you in the next session. Take care.